Hi again. Welcome to the second part of Flexcon series on sustainable packaging. We're discussing practical and impactful ways consumer packaging brands and converters can achieve sustainability. My name is Marguerite McGrail. Joining us again for this series is Flexcon Strategic Business Unit Director for Packaging, Dan Riando. He is a member of TLMI's Sustainability Committee, the APR Communications and Public Affairs Committee, and he's a keynote speaker for sustainable solutions in the packaging industry. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Marguerite.
Welcome
How are
back.
you? Thanks.
So, Dan, in the last episode, we touched upon a couple of points from the research report that Flexcon commissioned, elevating sustainability beyond the label, such as increased consumer demand for sustainable packaging, but also some of the misconceptions about recyclability. Can you talk more about what the research shows?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as demand for brands to become more sustainable, it's to the willingness of consumers to actually the willingness to pay for more sustainable packaging. Despite,
Mhm.
the current times of increased price sensitivity, commitments to sustainability remains important for consumers. Our study actually found that 70% of consumers indicate they select products based on sustainable packaging. Again, this highlights the importance for brands to invest in environmentally friendly products and deliver on their commitments.
So, I read in this report that less than 10% of plastic waste is actually recycled worldwide. Why are consumers struggling so much with recycling, and what are some of the barriers outlined in the research?
I think, not having the correct facilities, enough
Mm.
space, and inconvenience are really the top three challenges. But according to Retail Times, over 80% of consumers are actively looking for recycling instructions. So consumers are looking to be more sustainable and increase their recycling habits. But I just think, education, the infrastructure sometimes limits the ability for consumers to really be active in recycling. I think also when
Mhm.
you think about it from an e-commerce perspective, over the past few years, e-commerce has boosted demand for packaging, but the rising cost of materials and the consumer's willingness to pay for sustainability, consumers are now expecting brands to prove their sustainability and be more transparent. So I think,
Mhm.
brands have to understand what truly is sustainable and what could be considered greenwashing. So making sure that their claims are substantiated. Greenwashing is really just making a blanket statement about something and not having the substantiation to back it up. So really making sure sustainability is a key aspect in being transparent to consumers.
So, what can brands do to enable recyclability for packaging?
Yeah, I think introducing products that use wash-off labels can address multiple issues by eliminating the need for manual label removal. It provides excellent adhesion, yet removes cleanly in the PET reclaim process, and that's a big uh, product that we're promoting at Flexcon because it actually increases the demand for post-consumer resin material. So really,
Mm.
as brands make more commitments to saying they're going to have more containers post-consumer resin, they need to be able to be putting that resin back into the value stream. So by using a wash-off technology, it allows for that entire process to continue to move forward.
Mm. Now, what about some of those misconceptions about recycling you mentioned earlier? How does that impact sustainability?
Yeah, I think there's really a discrepancy between what customers perceive as sustainable and the reality of it. When comparing carbon footprints of, if you look at, three different types of products. So if you looked at like a single-use glass bottle, a PET bottle, and a PET bottle made with 75% recycled content, the recycled PET option actually emerges as the most sustainable choice.
Mm.
When you think about it, glass, you say, oh, damn, glass seems pretty recyclable. And it is infinitely recyclable. But it's actually for glass, they need much more higher resource consumption to make it. And then when you think about it, it's actually 6 times more material than the equivalent PET container from a weight perspective. It's a much
Mm.
larger carbon footprint. And then if you also think about the transportation of glass, it dramatically affects the efficiency of higher fuel charges and a greater pollution. So there some of those misconceptions we outline in the study, but really driving education is really important.
So, educating consumers is one way to address these misconceptions.
Absolutely. Education of consumers is really important. By teaching consumers what they need to do from a recycling stand, it helps increase recycling habits. But I think even more important aspect of addressing misconceptions is brands really need to take a responsibility for designing products that only appeal to consumer sustainability preferences, because there is a willingness for consumers to pay for sustainable products. But they also need to look and genuinely, look to design products that genuinely meet the recycling standards. So whatever the material is, understanding the end of life of that product in that container, because the packaging is part of that product. So by aligning your brand promises with environmental reality, you build brand trust, and you actually build loyalty from a brand perception that you're doing what you're saying and saying what you're doing. So it's really important, education, and then again, designing the products to be what's in reality.
So let's talk more about which packaging attributes contribute to sustainability in our next chapter.
Right.
Thanks, Dan, and thanks, everyone. We'll see
Thanks,
you next
Marguerite.
time.